Well, hey, church family, thank you so much for signing up for the Habits of a Healthy Heart text thread. We're going to keep sending you resources as we go through the series, and we wanted to kick this off just following up on Pastor Craig's series. I think this series has the potential to truly transform our lives. Over the past 3 years, I've been on a journey just with the practices that Pastor Craig is explaining, and I truly believe that if we get these lived out, it'll change our lives. And so to kick off the conversation, I want to interview the man who needs no introduction, our very own campus pastor, Pastor Ben Shanahan.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, man. I'm excited.
Excited to have you here. Well, Ben, Pastor Craig kicked us off the year in an amazing way. What were some of your thoughts? What resonated with you most as he kicked off our sermon series, starting with self-examination?
I think one of the things I love that's where he decided to start is with self-examination, because we're going to go through other habits, but I think that's really kind of a foundation of where us thriving to become fully devoted followers of Christ starts with, is to actually take a look inward and allow God to reveal things that are inside of us that he wants to show us, that he wants to cover with his grace and his mercy, that he may want us to do something about and do something with, so that then we can practice these other things that are going to help us to be in his momentum, in his grace that empowers us to live out the lives that he's called us to live out and make the difference that he wants us to live. And so I think I love that that's where he started. I love the Psalm 139. I know we're going to get into that. But that is a prayer of examination to allow God to reveal things that we kind of know are there. We may want to pretend that it's not a thing, but we kind of know that it's there. And so to be able to start with that and ask God to truly reveal us. And I'm excited to talk more about when you actually pray that prayer, what actually happens. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, so let's just pull up the prayer here. So Psalm 139, we started this way, praying this prayer: search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And so what has self-examination looked like for you as you've been praying that prayer? What does that look like in your life, in your relationships? Just what does that mean to you?
Yeah, for sure. So a few things. That Psalm 139 is something that probably 2 or 3 months ago I came across, and with a group of guys that I meet with regularly, and we were talking about that prayer, and we were talking about just kind of some of this process. And the whole chapter of Psalm 139 is so interesting because the first half of the chapter, David talks about how much God knows. It's everything. God knows this, God knows that, God knows this, God knows that. And then he has a brief rant about some people that he hates. I still don't fully understand what that's about. But then he prays this prayer at the very end. It's how he ends the chapter in Psalm 139. And so when I read that most recent time, probably 2 or 3 months ago, it kind of struck me as kind of doesn't make sense. Because he's saying, hey, God, you know all this stuff. Right. And then he's saying, hey, go look for something that maybe God doesn't know. And when I read at that time, it's kind of a treasure that's just hidden in plain sight. It's not something that's earth-shattering, but I was like, oh, David's not actually praying for God to search him and find something.
Right.
What David's asking is God, I know that you already know this about me, and what I need you to do is I need you to reveal it to me and help me to deal with it. And so I think that's the process that I've been on. Some small things that I've noticed of just my how frequently when I'm under stress or tension that I go to something like watching a YouTube video or clicking on an app on my phone to just distract myself. Pastor Craig talks about that in the message of constantly distracting ourselves from that, and using that as kind of a mirror of oh wait, I'm doing that again.
Right.
So what do I need to look inward to see what God might want to do something about?
Yeah, that's really good. And that makes so much sense. And I can relate 100% to that. And I actually want to share 2 additional practices that I think tie really closely to this one. We've kind of been talking about that, is one of them being fasting. As I fast, one of the first things that I notice is that God reveals what it is that I'm attached to on earth. As you talk about praying the prayer, God examine me, it's when I take something away, all of a sudden I realize how much this thing really meant to me and how much I go to it first before going to God. And I think that's something that can easily kind of add to this prayer of self-examination, and then confession being one of those. As he talked about, he even challenged us at the end of the message of, don't just sit here with what you've learned and been revealed, but go to someone, confess to be healed, just like James tells us to do. And pairing those with this, I think, can be truly transformative. So that's what I want to leave you with, church, as we go out of this. The 2 things we want you to walk away with is, 1, pray this prayer. God, search me, know me. Pray it regularly throughout this week, maybe once a day, and just ask God to show you some things that you may not yet know about yourself. And then go to someone that you know and trust that you can be honest with. confess and say, hey, this is what God showed me. I didn't realize it was even there, but I want to invite you into this and hold me accountable to this. Any final thoughts as we close out?
Yeah, for sure. I love that you brought up the confession thing and just kind of God's supernatural timing of how he works out things. I was actually with a group of guys last night, and a couple of guys confessed some stuff that was a struggle, something they were working through, and it wasn't met with judgment or anything like that. It was met with a group of guys who were in relationship together, and we love each other, and so we were able to encourage each other. And I think so many times, like when we think about confession, we think about this like, oh, this is going to suck, this is going to really hurt, and people are going to think differently of me. But when you're in the right group of people, which is why we talk about being a part of the life group so often, when they love you and care for you and want to walk with you and want to walk together towards allowing God to transform every part of our lives. Confession, one of the guys in the group, he was like, your confession's kind of a superpower. It's like you get it out there, and that's what you needed to actually unlock to uncover that. And so confession can feel like this super intimidating thing. But I just want to encourage you and challenge anybody that's watching this that maybe is on the edge of doing that. It's one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it gets. And so you just got to step in and do it right. But some of you, maybe you don't even have that group that you could confess to. You're like, I don't even know who I would start with. And my encouragement challenge to you is, Jake does such an amazing job of developing our leaders to create these amazing life groups. We have spaces for you to find that type of community, that type of environment. So I'd encourage you to do so.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you, church. I truly believe this is going to change our lives, and we'll have more resources linked below us. But thank you for coming along the journey. We'll send out more next week. Talk to you soon.